So this is the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, called the Divisions of Faith. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Now you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Arjuna is asking Krishna about, he was just talking about the demons, how the demons like make up all these stuff and they don't have any faith in the scriptures or anything. And so now Arjuna is going to ask Krishna, what about people who don't have any guidance from the scriptures, but kind of like make up stuff on their own and try to have faith in that? He's going to ask them if they have any standing and they can actually reach the goal. So here it is. Text 1. Arjuna vacha ye shastra vidimu srijya yajante shadyanvita tesham nista tuka Krishna sattvam aho rajastama. Synonyms. Arjuna vacha, Arjuna said, yea, those who shastra vidim, the regulations of scripture, usrijya, giving up, yajante, worship, shradaya, full faith, anvita, possessed of, tesham, of them, nishta, the faith, to, but, ka, what, Krishna, O Krishna, sattvam, in goodness, aho, or else, raja, in passion, tama, in ignorance. Translation. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture, but who worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? Purport. In the 4th chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. In the 16th chapter, it's concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scripture is called an asura, demon, and one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva, or demigod. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? This doubt of Arjuna is to be cleared by Krishna. Are those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worshiping in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life? Is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? Do those who do not follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but who have faith in something and worship gods and demigods and men, attain success in their effort? Arjuna is putting these questions to Krishna. Okay, I'm just going to read the Sanskrit. And then, Alan, you can read the first paragraph, and then we'll take turns reading paragraphs after this. Text 2. Sri Bhagavan-gītā. Trividi bhavati shraddha dehinam swabhavaja satviki rajasai chaiva tamasi cheti tvam shinu. Translation. Sri Bhagavan-gītā, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Trividi, 3 kinds, bhavati, becomes, shraddha, in faith, dehinam, of the embodied, sa, that, swabhavaja, according to those modes of material nature, satviki, in the mode of goodness, rajasi, in the mode of passion, cha, and, or also, eva, certainly, tamasi, in the mode of ignorance, cha, and, iti, thus, tam, that, shrinu, hear from me. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of 3 kinds, in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now, hear about this. Go ahead, Al.
Those who know the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but out of laziness or indolence, give up following these rules and regulations are governed by the modes of material nature. According to their previous activities in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, they acquire a nature which is of a specific quality. The association of the living entity with the different modes of nature has been going on perpetually, since the living entity is in contrast in contact with material nature, he acquires different types of mentality according to his associations with the material modes. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and the scriptures. Gradually, one can change his positions from ignorance to goodness or from passion to goodness. The conclusion is that blind faith is in particular mode of nature cannot help a person become elevated to the perfectional stage. One has to consider these things carefully with intelligence and the associations of a bona fide spiritual master. Thus, one can change his position to a higher mode of nature.
Yeah, I didn't even know what indolence meant. I just looked it up. So laziness or indolence, if those who know the rules and regulations of scriptures, but out of a laziness or indolence gives up following these rules. Indolence means having or showing a disposition to avoid exertion, slothful. In other words, you just, don't care.
Lazy. Similar.
So yeah, it's similar to laziness. Yeah, that's one of the actually the one of the symptoms of this age. Men of this age, it says in the first canto, are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. That's what everyone is.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Also, Thoreau mentioned that, Thoreau, the transcendentalist from New England, he said, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. That means it's like they're disturbed all the time. Text 3. You're going to read the paragraph below the translation here, Zoe.
Okay.
Sattvanurupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddha mayo yam purusho yo yat shraddha saevasa. Synonyms: sattva anurupa, according to the existence, sarvasya, of everyone, shraddha, faith, bhavati, becomes Bharat, O son of Bharat, shraddha, faith, maya, full of, I am this, purusha, living entity, yah, who, yat, having which, shraddha, faith, sa, thus, eva, certainly, sa, he. Translation: O son of Bharat, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. Go ahead, Zoe.
Everyone, I'm sorry, let me move this all the way. Everyone has a particular type of faith, regardless of what he is, but his faith is considered good, passionate, or ignorant according to the nature he has acquired. Thus, according to his particular type of faith, one associates with certain persons. Now, the real fact is that every living being, as is stated in the 15th chapter, is originally a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, one is originally transcendental to all the modes of material nature. But when one forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and comes into contact with the material nature and conditional life, he generates his own position by association with the different varieties of material nature. The resultant artificial faith and existence are only material. Although one may be conducted by some impression or some conception of life, originally he is nirguna or transcendental. Therefore, one has to become cleansed of the material contamination that he has acquired in order to regain his relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is the only path back without fear, Krishna consciousness. If one is situated in Krishna consciousness, then that path is guaranteed for his elevation to the perfectional stage. If one does not take to this path of self-realization, then he is surely to be conducted by the influence of the modes of nature.
Okay, we're going to take turns here, so it's my turn to read the next paragraph. With the word shraddha, or quote faith, end quote, is very significant in this verse. Shraddha, or faith, originally comes out of the mode of goodness. One's faith may be in a demigod or some created god or some mental concoction. One's strong faith is supposed to be productive of works of material goodness. But in material conditional life, no works are completely purified. They're mixed. They're not in pure goodness. Pure goodness is transcendental. In purified goodness, one can understand the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As long as one's faith is not completely in purified goodness, the faith is subject to contamination by any of the modes of material nature. The contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. Therefore, according to the position of the heart in contact with a particular mode of material nature, one's faith is established. It should be understood that if one's heart is in the mode of goodness, his faith is also in the mode of goodness. If his heart is in the mode of passion, his faith is also in the mode of passion. And if the heart is in the mode of darkness, illusion, his faith is thus contaminated. Thus, we find different types of faith in this world, and there are different types of religions due to different types of faith. The real principle of religious faith is situated in the mode of pure goodness, because the heart is tainted, we find different types of religious principles. Thus, according to different types of faith, there are different kinds of worship. Okay, text 4. Yajante sapika devan, yaksha rasamsi rajasa, pretan buddha ganams, chanye yajante tamasajana. Synonyms: yajante, worship; satvika, those who are in the mode of goodness; devan, demigods; yaksha rasamsi, demons; rajasa, those who are in the mode of passion; pretan, spirits of the dead; bhutaganan, ghosts; cha'an, anya, others; yajante, worship; tamasa, in the mode of ignorance; jana, people. Translation: men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods; those in the mode of passion worship the demons; and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Go ahead, Alan.
In this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead describes different kinds of worshippers according to their external activities. According to scriptural injunction, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable, but those who are not very conversant with or faithful to the scriptural injunctions worships different objects according to their specific situations in the modest of material nature. Those who are situated in goodness generally worship the demigods. The demigods include Brahma, Shiva, and others such as Indra, Kandra, and the sun god. There are various demigods. Those in goodness worship a particular demigod for a particular purpose. Similarly, those who are in the mode of passion worship the demons. We recall that during the Second World War, a man in Kolka worshipped Hitler. Worshipped Hitler because thanks to that war, he had amassed a large amount of wealth by dealing in the black market. Similarly, those in the mode of passion and ignorance generally select a powerful man to be God. They think that anyone could be worshipped as God and that the same results will be obtained.
Go ahead, Zoe.
Now it is certainly described here that those who are in the mode of passion worship and create such gods, and those who are in the mode of ignorance and darkness worship dead spirits. Sometimes people worship at the tomb of some dead man. Sexual service is also considered to be in the mode of darkness. Similarly, in remote villages in India, there are worshippers of ghosts. We have seen that in India, the lower class people sometimes go to the forest, and if they have knowledge that a ghost lives in a tree, they worship that tree and offer sacrifices. These different kinds of worship are not actually God worship. God worship is for persons who are transcendentally situated in pure goodness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeve Shabditam. When a man is situated in pure goodness, he worships Vasudeva. The purport is that those who are completely purified of the material modes of nature and who are transcendentally situated can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. They worship the impersonal Vishnu form in the material world, which is known as philosophized Vishnu. Vishnu is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the impersonalists, because they do not ultimately believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imagine that the Vishnu form is just another aspect of the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, they imagine that Lord Brahma is the impersonal form of the material mode of passion. Thus, they sometimes describe 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable. But because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose of all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. In conclusion, the different qualities of the material modes of nature can be purified through associations with persons who are of transcendental nature. In other words, these impersonalists, they use the demigods as an object of worship, but then they get rid of them. And then they want to ultimately merge into the Brahman effulgence of the impersonal Brahman. They become God themselves, which is the last snare of the illusory energy. Text 5 and 6.
Can I say something on that, reflecting really quick? Like, so when
Sure.
they talked about, it made me think of, because, we talk about what's your passion? And, it's such a, in Western cultures, having a passion is considered like
Right.
such a positive thing. But, people don't understand that, there's also a dark side of passion, and that's being, led astray by things that are kind of controlling you at a more base level.
Right.
And
Right.
so I really think in Western culture, we just have this very like ultimately like positive view of passion, but passion can be, obviously something that's misguided and misdirected too.
Yeah, when they're talking about passion in the Vedas, they're talking about a particular mode of nature, but that is also kind of the same, similar. Brahma creates the universe. He had a desire to be creative, and so he was put in charge of creating the entire universe, and that's like a really high level of creativity. I mean, it takes a lot of intelligence. Of course, Krishna gave him the intelligence to do that. But the same that I understand your point. Everybody wants to be like, you got to figure out what you want to do and be passionate about it, create some possibilities, like of what you want to do, and then go for it. Just do it. That Nike says, just do it. And they have all these politicians and all these self-help gurus. They're doing motivational speaking. The motivational speakers. But ultimately, you know what the goal of life is? To be unmotivated and uninterrupted in your devotional service to Krishna. When you're spontaneously attracted to Krishna as a beautiful person, and you want to love Krishna without any motivation, then you're unmotivated. And that's the actual only position of happiness in this material world. So I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be an unmotivational speaker.
I agree.
Okay, so
That's the
here's
goal.
text 5 and 6. Shasavi tam goram tapyante te tapojana dambhanhankara samyukta kamaraga balanvita karsyanta sarirastam bhuta grama machetasa mam chaivanta sarirastam tanvidi asuram nishchayan. Synonyms: shastra, not in the scriptures; vihitam, directed; goram, harmful to others; tapyante, undergo; yea, those who; tapa, austerities; jana, persons; damba, with pride; ahankar, and egoism; samyukta, engaged; kama, of lust; raga, and attachment; bala, by the force; in anvita, impelled; karsyayanta, tormenting; sarirastam, situated within the body; bhuta gramam, the combination of material elements; achetasa, having a misled mentality; mum, me; cha, also; eva, certainly; anta, within; sharirastam, situated in the body; tan, them; vidi, understand; asura nishchayan, demons. Translation: those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, and who torture the material elements of the body as well as the supersoul living within, are to be known as demons. Go ahead, Alan.
There are persons who manufacture modes of austerity and penance which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions. For instance, fasting for some ulterior purpose, such as to promote a purely political end, is not mentioned in the scriptural directions. The scriptures recommend fasting for spiritual advancement, not for some political end or social purpose. Persons who take to such austerities are, according to Bhagavad-gītā, certainly demoniac. Their acts are against the scriptural injunctions and are not beneficial for the people in general. Actually, they act out of pride, false ego, lust, and attachment for material enjoyment. But such activities not only is the combination of material elements of which the body is constructed disturbed, but also the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself living within the body. Such unauthorized fasting or austerities for some political end are certainly very disturbing, but to others, they are not mentioned in the Vedic literatures. A demoniac person may think that he can force his enemy or other parties to comply with his desire by this method, but sometimes one dies by such fasting. These acts are not approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he says that those who engage in them are demons. Such demonstrations are insults to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they enacted in disobedience to the Vedic scriptural injunctions. The word Śikṣāṣtaka is significant in this connection. Persons of normal mental conditions must obey but the scriptural injunctions. Those who are not in such a positions neglect and disobey the scriptures and manufacture their own way of austerities and penances. One should always remember the ultimate end of a demoniac person. Described in the previous chapter, the Lord forces them to take birth. The Lord forces them to take birth in the wombs of demoniac persons. Consequently, they will live.
I just put it up a little bit.
Yeah. Consequently, they will live by demoniac principles life after life, without knowing their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If, however, such persons are fortunate enough to be guided by a spiritual master who can direct them to the path of Vedic wisdom, they can get out of this entanglement and ultimately achieve the supreme goal.
Wow. Yeah, so it's like all these different people that are so motivated in different ways. Like they'll fast, to release some prisoners or something, or
But Gandhi did that. I mean, Gandhi was fasting for freedom of British imperialism.
But Gandhi also said that he was following the Gita, but actually Gandhi said that the Gita was a path of peace, but it actually is not a path of peace. Krishna wanted the war. So it's not, he misinterpreted the Gita himself, and he was using the Gita for his own political ends. I mean, it might have been somewhat in the mode of goodness. Prabhupada was actually a follower of Gandhi.
Yeah, he sent him a letter.
A master in Calcutta in 1932, his friend had to drag him to the Bhaktisiddhanta's discussion on the roof of the Uttadanga in Calcutta. And he was dressed in a khadi cloth like the Gandhis, because they were weaving their own cloth. They didn't like it was very oppressive. The English had just taken over everything. They had a monopoly over the cloth industry. And, of course, it's going to upset some people. And salt, and they stole everything, all the jewels, the precious jewels from the temples. I mean, they stole the bindi from the forehead of Mother Sita. The Hope Diamond. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
That is the bindi from Mother Sita, and it was cursed. So every single family that has held that diamond, it's been changed hands for so many different times. It has a history of complete disasters. Anybody that's owned it, because it was cursed by the Brahmanas.
I just actually heard about that.
United States of America. It's in the Smithsonian Institute. So.
Oh no, it's the other diamond. It's the one that's in the Queen's crown that was from Africa. That's the one I was thinking.
Yeah, that's another diamond. That's
it's also cursed that they say.
I mean, they should give all those back.
Rulers have it. Yeah, right.
They just like. Prabhupada said the whole problem with modern civilization is that they think they own everything. And if you conquer something, then they think it's theirs, So they colonize all these different countries, and then they claim to be proprietors of those countries and everything in it, and the people become indentured servants. But Prabhupada was protesting that, but Bhaktisiddhanta, when he met Prabhupada, Prabhupada felt, he was a college student at the time, and Bhaktisiddhanta told him, "You're an intelligent, educated young man. Why don't you spread Lord Chaitanya's movement all over the world?" And so Prabhupada looked at him, and you could tell he was sincere, but he felt like he had to say something because he was wearing the dress of a Gandhi follower. And so he said, who will listen to your Lord Chaitanya's philosophy if we're still under the subjugation of England? And Bhaktisiddhanta said, these things are not that important. He completely smashed him, and he loved it. And Prabhupada was very pleased. He said, that he was even defeated by his future guru. And he said, I've met a very saintly spiritual master, and he always remembered that instruction. And eventually, at the age of 69, after his business failed and Krishna smashed him in so many ways, he went to America and started this movement, because he was always thinking of that, what his spiritual master told him in 1932. It took him like 30 or 40 years, but he eventually did it. So this is the next verse here. Aharas tvapi svarvasya trivido bhavati priya gyagnyas tapas tatadanam tesham bedam imam shrinu. Synonyms. Ahara, eating too, certainly. Api, also, sarvasya, of everyone. Trivida, of three kinds. Bhavati, there is. Priya, dear. Yaga, sacrifice. Tapas, austerity. Tata, also. Danam, charity. Tesam, of them. Bedam, the differences. Imam, this. Shrinu, here. Translation. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them. Go ahead, Zoe.
In terms of different situations in the modes of material nature, there are differences in the manner of eating and performing sacrifices, austerities, and charities. They are not all conducted on the same level. Those who can understand analytically what kind of performances are and what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate, and they are foolish. There are missionary workers who advocate that one can do whatever he likes and attain perfection. But these foolish guys are not acting according to the direction of the scripture. They are manufacturing ways and misleading the people in general.
Yeah, it's called in Sanskrit or Hindi, I'm not sure which language or Bengali, it's called Yatamat Tatapat. Whatever way, there's so many ways, and all ways lead to the path, Even the Pope, he said, like, it doesn't matter if you're a nice person, you don't even have to believe in God, you will still go to heaven. It's not true. This whole chapter refutes that, because if you're under the modes of material nature, you have no connection to Krishna. You have to be guided by the Vedic injunctions, which are created by Krishna, and have some actual contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and follow his rules. Krishna consciousness means being conscious of Krishna and actually being responsive to his wishes. But if you're not, then you're just following your own path based on the modes of nature. You think you're in control and you think you're worshiping in a particular way, but actually you're being controlled by the modes of nature, and your result is going to be variegated according to the mode that you are in. It's like a bull being tethered by a nose ring and a rope. The bull thinks he's going this way when the farmer pulls on one way, and then the farmer pulls the other way, and then the bull thinks, okay, I'm going to go this way now. But they're not actually independent. Everybody's being led by the modes of material nature. That's why the whole idea of democracy is so foolish, of the people, by the people, for the people, because everybody's under the modes of nature. There are no devotees hardly in this system that we have. But formerly, when we had kings, they're called Rajarshis. Rajarshi means saintly kings, and they're guided by the Brahmanas. And when you have such a king, they can guide the citizens. They protect the citizens, and they treat them just like children. And they'll do anything to help their citizens and spiritually, and keep them on the path of the Vedic Varnashram system, which is a perfect system created by God to bring everybody back to Godhead. But there's no such thing nowadays. Everybody's a Shudra. Everybody's of the lowest mentality. And these third-class men, the Shudras, are electing 10th-class men to lead them. And the result is it's just a disaster all over the place, and that's Kali Yuga. So, we just got to get the hell out of here. We got to get out of this world, because it's just going to get worse from here. At the end of this Kali Yuga, another 420, we're only 5,000 years into it, but so far, the last remaining leg of religiosity is called the truth. But I think the last president of the United States lied about 36,000 times just during his time in office. So the truth is like really suffering now too. But by the time that this Kali Yuga ends, like I was saying, the qualities of mankind will be diminished so much, and people will be, at the end, they'll be 4 feet tall. They will live to be about 30 or 40 years old at the most, and they'll eat their own children.
Yikes.
At that point, Krishna will come again, riding on a horse, and slaughter all these demons. And there'll be a few sages living in the caves that they're alive now, actually, and they'll start another golden age. That'll be in another 427,000 years. But I don't plan on waiting around for that. It's too long.
I don't blame you.
I don't want to take birth for millions of years.
No.
Hundreds of thousands of births. That was it. It would take, divide 100 years into 427,000. It's like thousands of births, just to suffer in the Kali Yuga. I don't want to live on this planet. This planet sucks. Prabhupada said, this material world is no place for a gentleman or a gentle lady. So we got to get out of here. We got to get out of this place.
Hey, I don't want to stick around any more than I got to.
Yeah. Krishna certifies, it's like there's this one comedian that came to New Vrindavan in 2016. His name is Yamini Yamadas Brahmachari. That's his stage name. Actually, he was a lead singer and a guitarist for a band named Shelter, which was like a straight edge band in the 90s. And he's really funny. He speaks with a kind of a pseudo-European accent. And he said, he was talking about how some devotees, they think that they can make this world a better place. He said, I think he speaks in this European accent. So I had to transcribe his words, because he speaks like he's from Europe. He says, some people thinking I will make world better place. I will vote for Bernie, but no. He says, this world, Krishna certifies, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, temporary and miserable. You said it's like taking one of those pine fresheners from your car and putting it up in hell, to negate the smell of the sulfur in hell. So you can't, it's not going to work. Just voting for Bernie Sanders is not going to solve all your problems.
Nope.
I mean, Bernie might be a good guy, but it's not, you have to surrender to Krishna. That's the solution to all problems, and in this way, never take birth again in this material world. Okay, text 8. We only got about 3.5 minutes here, so we'll go through the next verse and we'll ask for questions here. Ayu sattva bolo rogya sukha priti vivardhana rishya snigdha stira hridaya aridya ahara sattvika priya. Synonyms: Ayu, duration of life; sattva, existence; bala, strength; arogya, health; shuka, happiness; priti, and satisfaction; vivardhana, increasing; rishya, juicy; snigdha, fatty; stira, enduring; hridaya, pleasing to the heart; ahara, food; sattvika, to one in goodness; priya, palatable. Translation: foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. I'm just going to read it. We'll take turns reading the translation here. I'm not going to go through the Sanskrit. These are very, Zoe, you can read the next translation here about the foods that are too bitter.
Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning, or dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease.
Go ahead and read the next one, Alan. Food prepared for more than 3 hours.
Food prepared more than 3 hours before eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just stop here. We can read the purport a later time because we don't have time for it. But is there any questions on this so far? Because we have 1 minute and 30 seconds left.
Oh, I have to send you this YouTube. They talked about the return of the oil that's in the opening the third eye, the pineal gland, and they talked about part of that process of enlightenment with the chakras is eating, eating the right foods are a part of that purification of the physiological process, which helps to
Yeah, this is all
build
about the modes of
awareness.
nature, though. Of course, a devotee is transcendental. When you eat food, when you eat prasadam, that's spiritual food.
Mhm.
We're just talking about the modes of nature here and the people that like certain things. I remember one devotee, they were in like some kind of like island country, and they were cooking with ghee. Ghee is like clarified butter, and all the villagers thought it was horrible. And so they invited the villagers invited the devotees to eat some food that they had prepared, and said, we're vegetarians. We can't eat anything that meat or fish or eggs or anything like that. He said, well, what is in it? It's totally vegetarian. Yes, it's vegetarian. He said, well, what's in it? It is simply composed of insects. So it's made of bugs. Anyway, we got to stop now. We got less than a minute, but thank you for attending, and we'll continue this next week, hopefully.
Thanks.
And I'll see you guys on Saturday. We're gonna have a good party.
Thanks.
All right, I'll see you then.
Arrivo.
Haribo.
All right, Bull.